Well, hello. Sorry, I'm just still getting everything set up. And I look like a hot mess express today, but it is okay. I'm still like getting set up at my new place, so I don't have like a designated workspace. I'm gonna get a desk in my room eventually because it's like pretty loud out here. Like it's really echoey because I have tile floor everywhere. So I'm like, oh, you can probably hear everything in the background, like my air conditioner, washing machine, all that stuff. I'm doing well this evening. So we're still kind of transitioning out of our apartment to our house. So today I was up at the apartment doing like some last minute cleaning and stuff. Okay, you need to go somewhere else. Go ahead. Go. Thank you. My dog's trying to be the star of the show. Well, hello. It's my pleasure to share my stuff. It's always like one of those kind of like catch-22 things. Like I'm sorry that people relate to my content because that means that there's a reason they relate to it, but I'm glad that it provides validation and clarity. So, boom. It's probably my phone. I was getting text messages and stuff, so I was like putting it on do not disturb because I get really distracted very easily. I can't just like ignore it. So I have like no real agenda for this live whatsoever. I just thought I'd come on, see who was on, if y'all have any questions or anything for me. I did want to let everybody know that my new group coaching session does start tomorrow. It's called Unshackled and Set Free. So if you've not heard of it, what we do is we cover the 4 most common struggles that you have after leaving a narcissist. So that is like the emotional roller coaster that we feel, the anxiety and paranoia triggers, and then also processing the grief. So it's 4 sessions total. I still have 5 spots left. It starts tomorrow, like I said, at 6 p.m. Central Time. But even if you can't make all the sessions, if you're registered, you get recordings of all the sessions. So you'll get it no matter what. But I do still have a couple spots left open for that. So if you are interested, you can direct message me if you have any questions, but you can also just go to the link in my bio and it has the registration that's in there. So there's 2 options. You can prepay for all of them and it's $80, which makes it $20 a session, or you can split it up into 3 payments of $40, which makes it $30 a session. So you have those 2 options for it on the cost. But like I said, you get the recordings even if you can't make it live. So I've had people that register and don't make any of the live sessions, and that's fine. But that starts tomorrow. Hey guys. So the narcissist is threatening to take my kid because I'm not working from being disabled. Oh my gosh. But my kid's also autistic. So I'm here to remind myself I'm not alone in this experience. So you're absolutely not alone in this experience. And it's interesting you're sharing this. First of all, I'm very sorry that you're dealing with that because I can't imagine the stress of that. But I had another client of mine almost in the exact same situation. And she was having to deal with a lot of that as well. And it's just frustrating because you know that they're not trying to, like, you know, they don't have the child's benefit at mind at all. It's all a game and it's all a competition to them. It's about power and control. And that's what makes it like even more asinine because it's still ultimately all about them. Like it has nothing to do with the kid's well-being at all. So I would definitely make sure that you have resources on your side. And if you haven't found a lawyer, just make sure you're absolutely getting legal advisement on this for sure. You can also DM me on that too, because that's a pretty specific situation. Oh, thank you guys. Oh, I need to do this. I always forget if I swipe right, the comments show up bigger and I can actually read them. It's so much better. But yeah, like I said, y'all, I have no agenda for this. So any questions that y'all have, feel free to ask them. If I don't have questions, I honestly just sit here very awkwardly because I'm awkward at lives because you can't like plan them. I was discarded yesterday. I'm so sorry. So this part, like right after the discard, is the hardest. And by the way, that's if you discard or if they discard you. Like it's the beginning stage is the absolute worst. But what I will tell you, once you start really putting in the healing work and you start to find a system and strategies that work for you, and you start to reclaim your peace and reclaim your clarity, and you start to rebuild your life really after this, you'll wake up one day and you'll realize that your worst day without them was better than your best day with them. And it doesn't necessarily feel like that at the beginning, but you'll see that at one point. And it really does. It just kind of clicks one day. Like I just remember waking up one day and I was just like, I don't wish him harm. I don't wish him well. I just don't care. Like I just don't care. Now it took time and it took a lot of work to get to that point, but it was just kind of like the switch just flipped in my head. It's really hard to explain. Because it felt like I went from this like every day, not even just every day, like every hour almost sometimes, to where I was just like, I don't miss it. Like I don't miss the drama. I don't miss him. I'm good. And it just works that way. It's very weird. And the other thing I can do, here, we'll do this too. Oh, this is a good question. Okay, this one's over on Facebook, so I'm going to read it so that way everybody else can know what I'm talking about. So, once you gray rock and focus on the positive in your life, does it get easier? So, I guess the short answer to that question is yes. Because what gray rocking and starting to focus on the positive things in your life, like what that's doing is it's shifting your focus. So when you here's the thing, like there's kind of this natural progression. So like stage one is almost like the educating phase. Like you're learning about this, you're trying to understand the behaviors, you're trying to make sense of what's happened to you. And there's a portion of that that is very healthy and it's very needed, because if we don't understand it, then we can't almost kind of decondition ourselves from it. But we also can't really prevent us from not falling into this into the future again. Because if we understand the patterns, then we can look out for the patterns. The problem with this stage, the education phase, is that we can channel everything else back into that stage. So instead of like focusing on like reincorporating meaningful activities back into our life, instead of doing things that bring us joy and starting to create new healthy habits and routines, because this stuff's work, it's not fun, and we don't necessarily feel like doing it. Sometimes what we do is we channel all that energy and we get stuck over here in the education phase. And at some point in time, we do have to shift that mental energy to where we stop just hanging out here and don't build a home here anymore, but we kind of pick up and we start to shift that focus. So when you're starting to gray rock and you're starting to focus on the positive things, that's kind of the beginning of that shift. And so I don't necessarily want to say that it gets easier, because a healing journey is not always easy, but will you start to notice a difference like in your day to day? Then yes, absolutely. And the only reason why I just don't want to say easy is because healing's not easy. Like it's not fun. And what I encourage everybody to do is don't always let your feelings determine your actions, because we don't always feel like doing the right things. We don't always feel like doing the healthy things. I always compare it to working out. Like about 5 years ago, I started to really take my health very seriously because I got pretty overweight at one point in time. And even now to this day, I don't feel like going on runs. I don't feel like going to the gym and lifting heavy things and then putting them back down and repeating it 15 times with 3 sets. Like, I don't really feel like doing that very much, but I do it because I know the benefits that it gives me. And like, I'm usually kind of I'll be honest, like the whole time I'm like drinking my pre-workout, getting to the gym, even during my warm up, like I'm kind of a bear and I'm not like in the best mood. But like once I start getting going, I'm so glad that I did it. But if I always let my feelings determine my actions, I would never do it or very rarely do it. So we have to lead with the good actions and the actions that we know are going to bring more positive impacts to our life, and the feelings do follow. So that's the biggest mistake that a lot of us make when it comes to the healing journey, is we just let our feelings determine our actions. It's like, well, I don't feel like doing my meditation, or I don't feel like journaling today, I'm tired, or I don't feel like doing my nighttime routine, I just want to get in bed, so it's like, and some of that's okay, but when we do it all the time, then we go like 2 weeks and we've not really taken care of ourselves because we just haven't been feeling like it. So that was a really long-winded answer, which is what I do on lives. But so hopefully that kind of gave some clarity. Okay, I saw some questions come in over here on TikTok too, so I'm gonna scroll real quick and try to find them. Is it normal for a narcissist to call you a narcissist? Absolutely. Like it, yeah. And even if they don't necessarily call you a narcissist, it's 100% common. I never say that like they all do things, because I can't say that. There's no such thing as absolutes, but it's very, very common that they either accuse you of being a narcissist, or that you were the toxic one, or that you were the blame, or all of that. But my ex actually flat out called his ex-husband a narcissist. His ex-husband might have been, I don't know. They might have been 2 tornadoes that were clashing together. I don't know. I didn't take the time to really get to know that very much once I figured out. That's a random side story. I was so tempted to reach out to his ex-husband after I figured out everything he was doing, because there was a part of me that wanted to know if the story about his ex-husband was true at all, or if it was all fabricated. I ended up not doing it. It would have done absolutely no good at all, but I was like really tempted at one point to do that. Okay, I know that some more coming. Hold on. Sorry. So what's wrong with the education phase? So there's nothing necessarily wrong with the education phase. What I mean is the mistake that we tend to make is we kind of camp out there, like almost build a home there. And the education phase is necessary. Like we do need the education phase to learn about this. And because it does 2 things. When we learn about it, it helps bring some level of understanding. We're never going to fully understand why they do what they do, but it at least gives some sort of understanding to like what the hell just happened to us. But the other thing that it does, which is almost the more important part, is when we can get educated on this, then we can see it in the future and not fall into this again. Just the mistake that a lot of us made, and I made it too, is we get stuck in that education phase, and instead of starting to shift the focus back into us. That's the only thing with it. So for the group coaching coming up, there's 2 payment options. So if you guys didn't hear, my group coaching starts tomorrow. It's called Unshackled and Set Free. And we're tackling the 4 most common struggles after leaving a narcissist, which is the emotional roller coaster, anxiety and paranoia, the grief, and triggers. Sorry, I went blank on the 4th one. So it's 4 sessions total, and you can either prepay for all of them, and it's $80 total, so it makes it $20 a session, or you can do 3 payments of $40, which makes it $30 a session. So both of those options are available. Even if you can't make all the sessions live, it's no biggie, because you'll get recordings of it, and whatever worksheets we use, you'll get those. Like you'll get anything you need from it, even if you can't make it live. I have people all the time that they're not able to make the time because of whatever time difference, but they wanted the info. That's fine. So if you register, you'll get it one way or the other. And you can message me if you have any questions, or you can go to the link in my bio. But I have 5 spots left, because I cap it out at 15. And the only reason that I do that is because we do like open share time during it. So there's a little bit of element of support group-ish, but also that way I can answer questions. And if it gets more than 15 people, I don't feel like I can devote as much time to it that way. So I do have 5 spots left. Another long-winded answer. I'm tired. I need an energy drink. Ooh, this is a great question. So, how would you? Okay, so I'm going to assume. Well, let me ask a question first. So, how would you communicate a trigger when the significant other is hurt by it and feel that they were targeted? So, I'm assuming this is like a relationship after the abusive one. Um, this actually did happen in my relationship with my fiance at one point. He didn't necessarily use the word targeted, but he was it definitely like wasn't handled well on my part. And this was before. This is also why like I have a whole portion in my course that's dedicated about triggers, and then also my group coaching. We spend an entire session on it because triggers is something that we're all going to deal with at one point in time or the other. And sometimes like you're going, well, not sometimes, most of the time you're going to have all new sets of triggers when you get into another relationship that you're not going to even know that you have until you make that next step. So it's really important that we learn how to manage them, because a mistake that most of us make is we try, and I did this, is we try to avoid the triggers, and that almost gives us like this false sense of healing because it's like, oh, I haven't been triggered in so long. And then something happens, and then we have this like big trigger response. Well, it's not that we've taken steps backwards, it's just that we've not learned how to manage the triggers in the first place. We were just ignoring them. Um, and it's really, really important to learn how to manage them, especially for any kind of new relationship. And that's not just romantic, but it's also friendship or new work environment or whatever it may be. Um, and that's literally, so that's a big reason why I have a whole day that's associated to that in the group coaching, because every trigger is telling you some sort of story about yourself, and we have to figure that out. But as far as communicating with the new partner, the first thing that we have to realize, and I know this isn't necessarily fun to hear, but it's true, our triggers are ultimately our responsibility. Our partner's responsibility is to create a safe environment for us to work on our triggers, but it's not anybody else's job to fix our own triggers. And I know that's not fun to hear, but I anything I'm talking about from experience. So I've been there, I've done this. I always would first and foremost reinforce to him that the trigger is not his fault. Like because if it was his fault, it would have been about him. But it was never really about him. It would have been anybody in this situation. No matter who I dated, this would have happened because of whatever the trigger was. So I always validated to him like he didn't do anything wrong. Sorry if y'all can hear my washing machine in the back. I've got to get a desk in my room because it's so loud out here. But see, ADD brain, I just went off on a tangent or a rabbit hole, whatever it's called. Side road. What was I talking about? Triggers. But I had a point. Hold on, it's coming back. Oh yeah. So I would just validate to him like, you didn't do anything wrong. If he didn't, you didn't do anything wrong. This isn't your fault. And I would kind of explain to him why the trigger happened. So what was the experience that I'm processing or what happened? Because my fiance worked very much, I had him on what I called a need to know basis. I didn't necessarily tell him a lot of the details about my past relationship until he needed to know, like when I got triggered. Like, okay, so this is the experience that happened to me. This is why it triggered me. And this is how I'm going to work on it from here on out. And here's the only thing that I need from you. Because maybe I do need something from him in this aspect or whatever, but ultimately I'm working on it. But it's very, very important to validate to them. It wasn't your fault. This is why this happened. And I know it doesn't make my reaction okay. I know I don't need to take it out on you. I know I'm not wanting to bring my past trauma into this relationship. Like, validate those things to them because that's important. And then also just owning up to whatever part that we played in the unhealthy dynamic or whatever that occurred. Really? Not doubt me. She's loud. Ooh. So this question about the moving into the same complex, can you actually, oh, my ADD is bad today, y'all. Sorry, I just scratched the crap out of my ankle. Can you actually DM me about that one? Because that's probably more than just a one answer or a one part answer is probably the best way to say. If you're still on here on Facebook. Oh, sorry, I'm behind on questions. So the group coaching that I was talking about, yes, that's for tomorrow. The first session starts tomorrow. Sorry, these come in kind of delayed, and my ADD brain is like on point today. Oh. This is a good question. How long until a narcissist mask falls off? It's never the same time frame. And the reason why is because it is very dependent upon the relationship. I will tell you, just based on my personal experience and then working with as many clients as I have at this point, it's so weird. It's usually somewhere between 3 to 6 months. Now, that's not like, I'm not saying that like in writing, like it only takes 3 to 6. There's been people that I worked with one person, actually more than one person, where it was a long distance thing for a long time. And it was like a year and a half before the mask kind of fell off, and when it was transitioning from long distance to in person. So it really is situational. But the most common that I see based on testimonies and everything and my experience as well, it's usually about 3 to 6 months. Because especially if they're spending a lot of time with you, nobody can really hold a facade for that long. You're about to see my cat. He's making his appearance. Right here. He's black, so he like blends in. Really? You have to go in front of me? I will get back to your questions in just a second. Can you make up your mind on what you're doing or where you're going? Are you just passing through, or are you trying to set up camp? Here, you can set up camp behind me. Okay. So sorry. It's never a dull moment in my house. Okay, so someone asked, do you tell your family and kids about the other parent's abuse? My narcissist is very careful to only yell at me if his kids weren't there. But after the divorce, can you be truthful? So if you're co-parenting with a narcissist, I would be very, very careful on ever talking bad about the narcissist to your kids. Number one, there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, you don't want to necessarily put an emotional burden on your children that's not theirs to bear yet. And why I say yet is because unfortunately, when they have a narcissistic parent, it's going to be channeled to them at some point in time. So really what's important, it's not about bashing the other parent to your child. What the focus really should be on is how do you build a strong, confident, and emotionally stable child? Because what you do know, unfortunately, is that they are going to deal with behaviors from their narcissistic parent. It's just going to happen. So it's more about armoring them on how for them to see themselves with worth and to not internalize negative actions by anybody as a reflection of their worth. It's really more about building strong, emotionally strong children. And the reason why you don't really need to, there's other reasons about not talking about the parent to your kids. One of them is it will 9 times out of 10 get back to the narcissist, and that's just ammunition they can use on you. And number two, they will see it for themselves within time. They just will. And then when you can create that safe space where they can bring these concerns to you, then that's where you can validate them. But they're also going to wake up one day, and it might not be until they're adults, but they're going to wake up one day and remember, like, well, Mom never really talked bad about dad, but dad ran his mouth all the time. And they're going to have the emotional maturity to know, like, that's more of a red flag, So you just kind of have to be patient and trust the process with it. Now, as far as confiding into other family about that, that's really personal choice. But if you're going to confide into other family about the abuse, then just make sure it's ones that you trust. Because unfortunately, we can't all trust all of our family. Did you ever have any issues with fawning in the new relationship after the narcissist? um, I don't know. No, okay, if I've dealt with fawning, it's not really been because of my narcissistic relationship. Um, it's more about my anxious attachment style. Because fawning is very common in anxious attachment style, so I wouldn't say it was because of my narcissist. But to be honest, um, I'm, and my fiance can probably attest to this. I have a no bullshit radar. Like I really just don't. So I don't do a lot of fawning with him. Because okay, here's the deal. Like we're both gay, obviously. We're both essentially only children. We're both very stubborn. We like having our way. So we can clash sometimes. And so when he's being a butt, I have no problem telling him that he's being a butt. And so, no, I don't really fawn very much with him. I probably did in the beginning. But I do. I just kind of have like a no bullshit radar. And so does he. So that's a good thing. So no, not as much as I used to. Do you do individual sessions? Yes, I do. So if you go to the link in my bio, it's got all this stuff. So I have 45-minute and 60-minute options in my schedule. I haven't opened my July schedule yet. I need to do that today. But yes, so if you go on there and don't see anything that works with you for this week, just send me a DM and we'll find a time in July. But I do need to open that tomorrow. Actually, I need to open that like today. Whoa. I just had like 15 comments at one time. I hate that it does that. Because then I feel like I lose my place. I will absolutely be taking your course once me and my kids are out. Take your time, seriously. That's priority. Like 100% that's priority. But keep in touch with me on it. Send me a message. And just keep me posted on that with you too. Oh, I have no idea if someone commented about this, but I saw it was just a comment that said I reported and blocked them. I think part 1 didn't come through. By the way, if you are on TikTok or any other platform, actually, there is an imposter. There's someone that's using all of my information and my videos on TikTok and is sending messages to people about zodiac readings and like all this BS. If you ever get any kind of message from me about doing readings or psychic stuff or zodiac stuff, it is not me. It is some kind of fraud or it is some kind of impersonator. But I have one. There is one right now on TikTok. It's literally the exact same username as mine is, but they just have a period in front of it. And if you go, all the videos it's what's funny is all the videos that they're using that has my watermark on it. It's hilarious. I've reported it to TikTok like 3 different times. They are not doing anything about it. I have not heard back for the 3rd time. So all I can say is if that comes across, please just report it. The more people that report it, hopefully something can happen. But yes, that is currently happening in the TikTok world right now. But that happens a lot also, especially on Instagram. So if y'all are following me on there, any platform, if you get some kind of DM from me about readings, or if I ask you, like, I will never just like randomly ask you for money. That's not how I roll or how I work. So I meant to say that earlier today. Ooh. Okay, this question is so good. So how do you get past the anger? after the relationship ends. So this is actually, we talk about this pretty heavily in the first session in my group coaching, because it's all about the emotional regulation side of things. And anger is one of the biggest ones that we feel. And here's the thing with anger and why it's so difficult to move past it. It's because your anger is justified. I would truly be shocked if you were not angry because of all of the things that had been done to you over the course of the relationship and even after. Like, the abuse doesn't end for the most part just because the relationship ends. So your anger is completely justifiable. And here's the thing. Oh my God, can y'all hear my washer like clicking in the background? Because if it's just me, I'll try to ignore it, but can y'all hear it? It's like clicking. I think because it's off balance. If y'all can't hear it, then I'll ignore it. But if you can, then I'm going to get up and go close the door or something. No. Okay. If y'all can't hear it, then I'm just going to deal with it myself. That's fine. I've got to get a desk so soon so I can get it set up in my room. It's much quieter in there. Anyways, so the way that you deal with the anger after this is you need to validate that you have it, because one thing that I see is sometimes people are like, I don't want to be angry. He was just like, he's just a POS, or, she never treated me right in the first place. So, well, I don't want to be angry. Unfortunately, it doesn't really matter if you do or don't want to be angry. You just need to acknowledge that it's there. So there's like this like visual practice that I've done in the past where I just kind of close my eyes, and instead of resisting the emotion that I feel, I almost imagine myself just embracing it and bringing it closer. So you can just imagine like, okay, you know what? I'm angry today, and I'm just going to be okay with the fact that I'm angry today. Because when you can acknowledge that the emotion that is there and you just accept it, you'll actually process it faster. Now, when it comes to like the continual anger, because unfortunately there's probably a lot of things that we're angry about, I had to get to this place of, I didn't want my anger to turn into bitterness. And because if I became a bitter individual, then that means a core part of who I am changed. And I did not want to give him that much power. I was like sassy enough to where I was like, no, I'm not going to let him change me in that aspect. Like, I like the fact that I'm empathetic. I like the fact that I, love people. And I like the fact that I am pretty quick to trust people. I'll trust them until they give me a reason not to. And I'm still that way to this day. But I didn't want to become bitter and jaded to where those people. And I didn't want to be that. So what I had to do was, there was a couple, I got really good at making lists. Like, I wrote lists out. And I asked myself, of the things that I was angry about, what can and what can't I control? And I made two of those. Like, here's the things I can control that I'm angry about, and here's the things that I can't. And the things that I couldn't control, or I had no say-so in, or there was nothing I could do about it, I had to just consciously make the decision to let them go. So I had this like mantra that I did, where I just said, today I let go of XYZ. Today I let go of this. Today I let go of this. And I release it from my mind. I release it from my heart. And I release it from my words, because I didn't want to talk about it anymore. I didn't want to think about it anymore. And I didn't want to feel it anymore. So I would like consciously release it. And then I would say, in its place, I accept peace, love, and a sound mind. And I was literally having to say this several times a day for a while. I think I ended up doing that for about a month. I wasn't having to say it multiple times a day for a month, but I was saying it at least once a day for a month. And that helped me a ton. Because what the anger can be sometimes, it's where it's just the chains of the actions. Like, their actions put chains of burden on us. And some of that burden is anger. So even though it's justified, for the most part, I was responsible of reclaiming my own peace. He could not do any of that for me. He wasn't capable of it. And I couldn't find peace from the place that I lost it either. So I just had to emotionally and spiritually remove those chains every single day. And that was what helped me the most by far. Um, so someone asked, would you let your abusive ex-husband see y'all's baby if he still abuses you physically? So I can't tell you what to do. I can only tell you what I would do. And if I didn't have children with my ex. I had kids, but they were from a different relationship. And I will just tell you that the one boundary that I was able to hold in my relationship with my narcissistic ex was if it ever got physical, I was out. And because I didn't want my kids to see that. And that's exactly what happened. The day that I got physical, I kicked him out and I was done. And I was never tempted to go back. So if I was in that situation, I would make it very, again, I'm not telling you what to do. This is just if I was in that boat, I would make it very difficult for someone like that to see my children. Because, again, my biggest fear would be it would only be a matter of time before they started doing it to the kids. Not just me. Because if they're capable of doing it to me, they're capable of doing it to them. So for me, no, I would, it would be like I would fight that pretty darn hard. I can't, like I said, I can't tell you what to do in your situation, but if it was my situation, absolutely not. No, that's a hard line for me personally. What is fawning? Like people pleasing. So fawning is one of the, it's one of the like trauma responses essentially. So there's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fawn's kind of one of the newer ones that people have been talking about. So obviously, like we know fight or flight, those have been around for forever. Freeze is kind of self-explanatory. It's just where you just literally freeze, dissociate, almost kind of go numb. And then fawning, okay, this is like kind of a goofy way to explain this. If you've ever seen Princess Diaries, this is a very specific reference. But in Princess Diaries, the first one, when the queen shows up to the high school and the principal's like trying to like serve the queen, and she's like saying like, I'm sorry, Your Majesty, we don't have like finer china or something. And at one point in time, she literally gets on her knees and she was like, what's it like in Genova, Your Majesty? Do people just fawn over you all the time? And she's like literally going like this. That's like kind of a good representation of what fawning is like. It's like you're trying to soothe the other person, like you're taking care of them. So it is a little bit of like people pleasing, but it's like you're trying to calm the storm that's in them. So it's like, that's the best way that I can describe it. I was by far a fawner for sure. I think, and fawning is very, very common with anxious attachment style because you want them soothed, you want them happy. It's all like, I've even done this in my current relationship where instead of like, I would ask him all the time, I don't really do this anymore, but I would ask him all the time, like, are you happy? Like, I was always concerned to make sure that he was happy. And I've had to like almost redirect myself to where, and I am, don't get me wrong, but I've had to redirect myself to where like, okay, instead of asking if he's happy, like, let me make sure that I am, because like, I need to take care of me first before I can take care of him or anybody else. So that's fawning in a nutshell. Oh my gosh, somebody's handle is Xena Warrior Princess, and I'm kind of obsessed with that. Yeah, I'm a fawner and a freezer. Sometimes I can go into fight. Like if I feel very physically threatened, like where it's in my face, then I'll go into fight. I usually kind of walk away though before I get to that point. Like there was an instance where my fiance and I were at a bar and there was this guy that got really aggressive with us and started using the F slur and everything. And I had to walk away because if I don't walk away before it gets to a certain point, like my fight, and it's because of safety, my fight will kick in and I'll just see red. And I just am like I'll go into total survival mode. Because especially when that word is used, it's just, well, I don't even know how to describe what that does to me on the inside sometimes. It's kind of like a catch-22. When it's met with aggression, then I get into the fight or flight. When it's just somebody being stupid, I'm like, I've heard this so long, like, come up with something different. But that particular instance, it was like a very stereotypical homophobe. And so in situations like that, I can go into fight pretty easily. But in relationship, like in my relationship with my narcissistic ex, with the emotional, like when he would yell and all of that stuff, because again, it didn't get physical until the very last day. I would fawn or I would just freeze. Like I would freeze because I would just want it to stop, and I would dissociate to where it's like I'm not absorbing what's happening to me right now because I can't, or I would just try to soothe him and calm the storm through him. Make sure I haven't missed any questions. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good question. So I've been out of the house for about 2 weeks. Why does it feel worse now? There's several reasons, but I'm going to give the main one. So what happens when you're in these relationships, and sorry, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of like a neuroanatomy lesson. It's going to be a very simple one. But what happens during these relationships, while we're in it, we essentially have two main areas of our brain. And again, I'm making this like very simple because I can nerd out on this stuff a lot. But we have what's called our emotional brain, and we have our logic brain or thinking brain. The emotional brain is what activates our fight or flight. Just send me a message because I'll just be 100% honest with you. I won't be able to find your handle. So just send me a message and I'll find it. But there's an emotional and a thinking brain. So the emotional brain is what's responsible for initiating the fight or flight response in your body. And your thinking brain, that's like what we call your rest and digest. So that's where it's just like your normal functioning and all of that. This is where we're supposed to live. This is where we're supposed to hang out. And the emotional brain is only supposed to come in when it's needed and when it's necessary. It was never designed to be our baseline of operation. Well, when we're in these relationships, we're constantly under threat, whether it's physical or at the very least emotional threat, constantly under that threat. So because of that, the emotional brain is constantly being activated. And when that's activated, the thinking brain naturally just kind of takes the back seat because this is what's important. Because evolutionarily, when this is being developed, if we were like back in the caveman days, if a tiger walked into the cave, you're not worried about digesting your food. You're worried about surviving and staying alive. So the thinking brain kind of goes back into the forefront. And this is a big reason of why we don't process a lot of things that happen in the relationship because we're too busy constantly staying in this fight or flight or anxiety. And we have this heightened alertness in the relationship where we're constantly waiting for the next dangerous stimulus to come in because we're used to it just being this constant loop. Well, when we get out of the relationship, we're no longer in that constantly threatening environment. So the nice thing is that our thinking brain can start to come back into the forefront. The frustrating part of that is, as that happens, all this other stuff that we've not processed is finally able to start coming to the forefront. So maybe we have flashbacks, or we start having, you can go from feeling great that you left to like not even an hour later, you feel like you missed them terribly, or you're angry, or you're sad, or whatever it may be. So we can have this like, and it's just because there's so many things that we've not dealt with during that time. That now that you're in a safe place, your thinking brain can start to activate. And so that's why the beginning stage is so incredibly rough, because it's like, and I'll be honest with y'all, this does not happen nearly as often as it used to. But in May, it was 3 years since I had gotten out. I still have some flashbacks in a way. Not necessarily negative flashbacks, but, well, no, they're kind of negative. They're not triggering like they used to be because I've learned how to manage my triggers. Thank God for grad school, which is why I teach it to y'all now, because I needed this so bad a long time ago. But I still deal with flashbacks sometimes, not nearly as often as I used to. So it unfortunately, that part can last a bit. It used to be I was having flashbacks like all the time. Now it's like every once in a while, something will pop in my brain, and I'm like, oh, I completely forgot about that. Okay, guys, I probably have like, let me check. Hold on. I'm checking my messages really quick. I'm so sorry. Okay, so yeah, I probably have like 15 more minutes. So if y'all have any other questions, please let me know. And then real quick, before I forget, just last reminder that the group coaching session does start tomorrow. It's called Unshackled and Set Free. It's 4 sessions total, and we're going over the 4 most common struggles after leaving a narcissist. So honestly, kind of some of the stuff we've been talking about today. It's the emotional roller coaster, dealing with your triggers, anxiety and paranoia, and then also dealing with the grief. If you're not able to make the sessions live, it's totally fine. You'll get recordings of the sessions and anything else that we use, so like the worksheets, the exercises that we do during the call, like all that stuff. You'll get all of that. So if you can't make it live, like don't stress. You'll still get everything that you need. And then it starts tomorrow, and like I said, it's 4 sessions total. It's every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Time. So I still have, that was another thing I was checking. I have 2 spots left. I've had 3 people sign up since the live, so I only have 2 spots left. So if you are interested in that, send me a direct message, or you can go to the link in my bio and sign up there. I only take a max of 15, just that way I still have some time on the call to like actually talk to people on it. I don't like just feeling like I'm talking at people all the time. So anyways, that does start tomorrow. I'm actually really excited about it. So how long did your ex-narcissist hoover you? So here was an interesting part of my situation. My narcissistic ex, I think, was smart enough to know that he bit the bullet when it came to getting me back in a romantic sense. Because he never, well, he did kind of try to hoover me in a way, like to hook up one time. Actually, more than once. But his hoovering was more about staying friends, because he was really adamant that we stayed friends after the relationship. And quite honestly, I totally fell for it. And this is how I know I was so trauma bonded to him, because I knew he wasn't good for me. I knew I didn't want him back. I knew I couldn't go back. But I still couldn't imagine my life without him. So I kind of wanted to stay friends too. Like that's how I knew I was trauma bonded to him, looking back now. And that was such an incredibly painful experience all in itself, because he was still being so manipulative through all of it. It was all about competition to him. And there's several stories associated with that I don't really have time to get into right now. But that was mostly what he did. And honestly, the heaviest portion of that particular hoovering, that was the heaviest probably within the first month or two. It kind of started to fizzle out a little bit, because it was like for the first month or two, he was like talking to me every day. Like nothing had happened, nothing had changed. It's just we're friends now. But that kind of started to die down a little bit after that, until I went no contact. I didn't go no contact until about almost 5 months after we broke up. Is when I went full no contact. I had built up to certain aspects. I was limiting my contact until I had the strength to go full no contact. Oh my gosh, you have a broken arm. No. That's the pits. I'm so sorry. And finally leaving my gaslighting narcissist wife. Well, that's always, I'm happy for you in the sense that you're choosing you. but I'm sorry that this is a choice that you're having to make. Even if it is the right choice, it's a painful choice. But I'm proud of you for choosing you. I went into contact a year ago. So why does he still pop up in my dreams every once in a while? I think that dreams are, no, I'm not a dream expert or anything like that. So let that be known. But I think that dreams are a way that our subconscious tries to process things. Because again, there was so much that we did not process during this relationship. I mean, we couldn't. We were too busy trying to survive that we couldn't process it all. And I think sometimes our dreams are a way for our subconscious to process, really. Because I don't know about y'all, but I have different types of dreams. Like there are some dreams that I have that are like so vivid that it almost feels real, almost like premonition type dreams. And then there's other dreams where I can totally tell that they're fear based just by how I feel when I wake up from it. And then there's other dreams where it's just like, okay, well that was interesting. But when I did have dreams about him. Not a lot. I did for a little while, but this is super common. Like the dreams aspect is such a common thing. And I think it is. It's just a way, it's almost like a safe way for us to process things on a subconscious level, where it just brings it to the forefront of our mind, one way or the other. And maybe because maybe it's stuff that you're not able to really start. It might be its way of introducing it back into your conscious mind again. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna tell you all a wild story. This is wild. I had, so before, probably like a month before I left my ex, I had a dream about him. And it's one of those like premonition type dreams that I felt like it was so specific. Like the direction he was laying in the bed, where I was standing, all of this stuff. And in the dream, I said something to him along the lines of like, why are you acting like that, or something. I don't remember exactly what I said in the dream, but it was something along those lines. And in the dream, he like jumped up off the bed and leapt at me, like lunged at me. And that's when I woke up, when he was like coming at me. And I remember waking up. It was so real. Like I still see the details of it in my mind. And I woke up, my heart was racing, like I was sweating, like I was in full fight or flight, because it was so freaking real. And then here's what's real trippy. A month later, the day I kicked him out, I'm going to skip a lot of the story of that night, but essentially I was trying to get him to go to bed because he's plastered out of his mind. And I tucked him into bed. I put Tylenol water next to him because I knew he was going to have a hangover the next morning. And as I was walking out of the room, he said something about, oh, so you're just not even going to get in bed with me? And I looked at him and I was like, I'm going to go shut down the house. Like I need to turn the aquarium off and lights off and all this and all that. And so then I keep walking, and he said something else to me, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but I'm standing in the doorway, just like my dream. He's laying in the bed exactly like he was in the dream. And I turn around and I say to him, why are you talking to me this way? And what happened? He leapt out of the bed and lunged at me. It was literally the identical setup of my dream. It was just, and I forgot that I had that dream until like about a week or so after the breakup. And I don't remember I can't recall right now what made me remember that dream, but I was just like, oh my gosh, I was being warned about, like, it was too identical for it to have been any sort of coincidence. It was so strange. And it was absolutely whatever higher power you want. Like, I'm a Christian, so I 100% believe it was God's way of preparing me for what was about to happen. But I've never really experienced something like that in life, where I dreamt something that was almost play by play what happened in real life. It was nuts. I never really talked about that on here, but that dream question made me think of it. Okay, y'all, I have like maybe 5 more minutes. I really probably should hop off now, but does anybody else have a last minute question for me before I go? And you can also always direct message me too. I will be honest with y'all. I'm just going to be very honest and transparent. I am a little bit slow to respond to DMs. I do respond to them, but it's not always fast. And it's because, well, I'll just be honest. I manage this. I go to school full time and I have 3 kids. So I have like pockets during the week where I sit down and respond to DMs. So I'm not always on my phone, just like responding right away. So just be patient with me. Send me a DM, but just be patient with the response because it might be a couple days. And I'm very transparent about that. But last reminder, just since I'm about to hop off, my group coaching starts tomorrow. I'm excited. It is Unshackled and Set Free, going over the 4 most common struggles after leaving a narcissistic relationship of any kind, which is the emotional roller coaster, processing the grief, anxiety and paranoia, and dealing with your triggers. It's 4 sessions total. Anybody that's registered gets copies of all of the coaching content, not the open share. I don't record that part, but of the actual content. You get recordings of all of that, plus the worksheets and anything else that we do on the call. So if you can't make it live, it's no biggie. You'll still get the content. And like I said, it's 4 sessions total. It's $80 if you prepay for all of them, makes them $20 a session, or you can do 3 payments of $40, which makes it $30 a session. And that starts tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central Time, and it's every Tuesday. Well, except for next week, because next week is the 4th. So we have 1 week off, and then we pick up. I forgot about that. But I do, so last time I looked, I had 2 spots left. So, which I think I still do. Yeah, I still have 2 spots left, because I only take a max of 15. So if you have questions on that, send me a direct message, or you can go to the link in my bio for the information. But outside of that, if I don't hop off now, I will start running late for the rest of my evening. So thank you guys for hopping on. I know this is kind of a quick impromptu live. Sorry I look like all grungy and messy, but I'm still working on my house and also getting rid of my apartment as well too. So it's been a day, a good day, but it's been a long day, and it's hot and nasty here in Texas. So I've been sweating like a whore in church today. So anyways, I love y'all. Y'all always just make me feel so incredibly blessed to do what I get to do. And even if our journey together is only you just coming on my lives and just commenting on my videos, I just wanted to tell you that I just greatly appreciate you and trusting me in along your healing journey. And I'm always very appreciative for allowing me to be a part of your healing journey in whatever capacity that I get to be. And I love this community. I love serving it. I love being a part of it. And I just hope everybody has a great rest of your evening, and stay safe, stay strong, and be balanced. And I will see y'all on the next live. Good night, you guys. Have a great one. Thanks for hanging out.